Hi everyone, so today I wanted to share this layout with you. It's a photo of my family's feet at the beach, and I'm taking you through the papers that I'm going to use today. So I've got some papers from Crafts' Sandy Toes collection, and I've also pulled out a couple of papers from the Salty Kisses Craft paper pad. And I'm just showing you, I've got some cut apart sheets there and some more from the Sandy Toes collection, and I've got both sticker sheets from each of those collections as well, and then just a couple of extra beachy themed things. So I've got some rub-ons and some epoxy stickers, and then I've got this set from Craft, these two sets. So I don't think I end up using much of that on this particular page. I've got some washi tape which has got clouds and raindrops from Kazaz, and I've got a Craft set of stamps from their Wanderlust collection. So all I knew was that I wanted to use this water paper as the background, and I wasn't 100% sure whether I wanted to use this dark blue paper to mat the photo or to mat the page. And I wanted to use these bits of papers, so I've pulled out some of the scraps that were sitting in my beachy themed pack, and I decided that I wanted to tear some strips and have that off to the side as a bit of interest off to that right hand side. So I'm just randomly picking up papers and tearing them so that they're not even in any way, shape or form. And just tearing those strips off. So this layout is the first of many that will be coming, that come from our holiday photos from April back in 2015. So I thought it was about time I got around to scrapbooking some of these photos. I've had them printed for a while, but wasn't quite sure how I was going to go about it. So what I decided to do, because it's a holiday album and there's quite a few photos for each particular day or event, or you know, each sort of thing has multiple photos, rather than try and get lots and lots of photos on 12 by 12 layouts, I've decided to do a 12 by 12 layout for each collection of photos, and the facing page will be pocket pages. So for the next sort of few process videos, you'll see me doing a 12 by 12 layout and pocket pages, depending on the layout that I'm working on. It may be the 12 by 12 first and then the matching pocket pages in the next video, or it could be vice versa, depending on how it's laid out in the album. So I generally will do whichever one I'm scrapbooking first. So if the pocket pages are on the left hand side, that's the one that you'll see me do first. So just adding some papers there, and decided I would add another piece of that striped paper. I really like that to sort of break up those more neutral tones. So just adding that extra one there, and then I just tear the bottom of the piece of paper that goes at the bottom, because it's the only one you will see the bottom of, and then I'm just going to ink up the edges and adhere all of those down once I'm happy with it. So I do start inking one and decide I won't record myself inking all of them and adhering them down, so you'll see that I do that off camera, and then I'm still trying to decide whether to use this dark blue as a matte, and I was thinking it may influence where I stick down those pieces of paper, but I've decided I'll just do the layout without the matte, and then if I decide it needs it at the end, I can always go ahead and matte it before I do the final embellishing. So you can see I've just adhered that down now, and then I decide before I do any more embellishing, I'd like to get the title down. So these stickers, I love the style of these stickers, and they're called Jewelry Box, and they're in chestnut, so they're a chipboard thicker. You can see I've used quite a few of them, and yeah, I'm just lucky I have the letters that I needed to do this title, and I'm using two different thickers, so I'm just doing one word in this style, and then I will do the other word in these other thickers. They're quite thin, which I like because you can fit lots of letters in a small space, and they are called Love Note, and they're the rose colour. And one of the things I really like about these thickers is I actually picked up a couple of packs of these, and one sheet is this rose colour, which is sort of a really pale sort of yellow with a bit of a pink tone to it. And then on the other side the sheet was like a bright pink, so you actually got two lots of thickers in the same font, just two different colours in each pack. And I also managed to pick them up on sale for $2 a pack, so you know, $1 a sheet of thickers was an absolute bargain. So just thought that really picked up on that sort of sandy colour a little bit. That's, you know, similar tone that it is, just with a slight pink hue to it. So just decided I would use those, and quite like the way that combined with the darker sort of brown, that chestnutty colour. So I think I'm going to put the title there, and then I'm going to start working on where the embellishments will go. So looking for 3 spots for the washi tape to go, and it's a white washi with a pale blue print on it, so it's barely noticeable on the page, but it's just a little place where, you know, it can add a little bit more interest to the background there, and just framing that photo and that title all together. Now you can see I've got these shells that we actually collected from the beach on that day, and so I've pulled out some of the smaller ones that we collected because I'd like to use them on the layout, and I'm just looking at how I can give a bit of background to those shells. And I've decided that this sort of wavy pattern down the bottom would make for a good background for those shells, and I'm just using my Tim Holtz pinked circle punch to punch out 3 circles from there that I can sort of layer behind those shells, just to create a little bit more interest. And you'll see that I did turn over the paper. I just wanted to see the pattern on the other side and decide whether I was okay to punch all the way along the bottom, or how that was going to influence the way I might use the pattern on the other side, because I'm a big believer in trying to use up as much of the paper as possible. And so, you know, I am very conscious of what is on the other side before I decide where to, you know, punch a shape or where to cut or that sort of thing. So what I'm doing here is just cutting out some stickers that I'm thinking will go well with each of the clusters, but I didn't want to peel them off and stick them down until I sort of saw them visually. I'm a very visual person, and I just really wanted to see how they might look as part of those layers. So I quite like the way that those rectangles look. It gives another shape to each of the embellishment clusters and just creates a little bit more interest there. So I'm going to go ahead and use those, and I'm just looking at any other options that are available, but I think I'm happy with those. So decide I'm going to start adhering things down and just using some double-sided tape on the circles, and I'm going to create that layered effect by using some foam squares on these rectangles. And I'm using my favourite little foam squares, which are the quite thin ones, so it gives a little bit of dimension but not a huge amount, and that's because I've got the shells and they're really going to come off the page. Even though they're small shells, they are quite thick, so I really just wanted to add, you know, layer upon layer, and I find that those little foam squares are fantastic for that. So if you do come across them in stores, they're very sort of thin, much thinner than a lot of the branded ones that I've seen before, and I've just picked up some packets at my local cheap shop quite a while ago, and I'm almost out. That's my last sheet now, but if you do see them, I'd encourage you to grab some because they are very versatile. And also find they're great in pocket pages because they don't give too much dimension when you're slotting things into small pockets. So just going through the same process again with the other embellishment areas, just adding those foam squares to the rectangular stickers, and then looking at where I can put the shells on top of that as well. So I really like this photo because it's quite simple and artistic, and so that's a 5x7 photo that I'm scrapbooking there, and then the facing page will have other photos from the day. So you'll see that in my next process video, but you can see I'm just adhering down those shells. The other thing that I did with the shells was I tried to make each cluster look a little bit different. So obviously all the shells are not the same, but I tried to pick shells in each cluster that was, one was quite an interesting shell, one was quite a plain shell, but the actual shells that I chose were very different to each of the other clusters as well. So that created, I guess, a point of difference for each of those little areas, and then the rest of, you know, the washi tape, the pink circle, and the rectangular sticker were all very similar. So yeah, it kind of made them unique, but also made them feel like they fit together on the page. So just adding that last one there. I also inked the edges of those stickers. I just felt like it could do with some ink, considering I'd inked all the torn strips, but I didn't ink the pink circle edges. I just thought I quite liked the sort of sharpness of the pink circles, and I thought if I did ink them it would take away from that really sort of pointed different shape on the page. So just adhering down the title now, and that kind of fits nice and snug in there, and then just adding those other thickers at the top of that photo so it actually sits on the top of the photo, and I use that as my way of lining up all of those letters. I found that the word Coffs was a little bit tricky because it was on a bit of a downward slope, and that's another reason that those jewellery box letters worked quite well, because they weren't very uniform shaped letters. It was easy to make it kind of fit well on the top of that and not look like there was too much of an awkward gap. So I'm just pulling out those stamps now from Kaiser Craft's Wanderlust collection, and just thought that it might be good to add a little bit more interest to the page by adding some stamps. So I'm just checking how much of those arrows will fit, and I'm just going to use one of those. I'm using archival ink in the tree branch colour, and I'm just going to stamp that down, and then looking at what else might go onto the layout with stamps. And so this one is a I can't think of the name of those things, a geotag, and it didn't quite turn out dark enough, so I've gone in and double stamped that. It matched with the arrows, but because it was sitting next to the word Coffs, that chestnut was quite a dark brown, and I thought it needed a bit more of a stamping to sort of blend in or fit in with that that word as well. So just looking at other stamps that I might be able to add, and I've got some word stamps I think that I'm going to use, and some little arrows as well. And this time I'm just testing off camera the colour on the paper that I'm going to stamp on, and this time I decided to go with a blue rather than the brown. So I'm just looking at the word escape there, and I'm stamping that in, I think it's, might be cornflower blue is the colour that I'm stamping that in. Yeah, I think it is. Cornflower blue is what I'm stamping that in. And also, yeah, just I checked out a few different blues and decided that that would be the best one. And so just layering a few stamps around the embellishment areas. And so there's some words, there's some arrows, and it kind of all just ties it in really well, I think. And I didn't stick down those shells because I knew I wanted to add some stamps in up the top, and they would get in the road, and so the arrows are just there at the top. So just now going ahead and adhering the shells in all the three areas, just looking for my glue, I think. So it's, first of all, it's enamel dots. So I pulled out some enamel dots but decided that they didn't quite match what I was looking for, so I pull out the whole drawer. In a moment you'll see me pull that out and go through and try and find some enamel dots that fit in well. I was really looking for something that was the right tone of blue. It doesn't matter if it's a different colour or a different shade, but as long as you get the right tone. So I've got these ones, I think they're called Country Cookin' or something like that. Picked them up from Lincraft a little while back. And yeah, so just deciding whether I just want one in each cluster or three. And I think I just decide I'll go with one in each cluster, just to create a little bit more interest for each of those areas of embellishment. So now I'm going to adhere the shells down. I'm just using my Tombow Mono Multi adhesive to stick those down, and then yeah, I think I'm almost done with this layout. So I hope you enjoyed this process video, and I would love to see you subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more of my holiday album that's coming up. If you haven't already, check out my 100 subscriber giveaway. I'll include the link below to that video. You've got probably a day or two left to enter that giveaway if you're interested, and yeah, I'd love to give a prize away in the next few days to one of my lovely subscribers. So thanks again for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and yeah, definitely subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more. There is some still shots at the end. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.